Today we're going to look at lesson 17. This is coming from section 3.2 in your textbook, and our I can statement or learning objective is I can solve systems using substitution. So we're still talking about systems of linear equations, which is what we started talking about in lesson 16. And at the beginning of lesson 16, I told you that there are some different methods that we're going to use to solve systems, and we wrote down when each method is the best. So substitution is the best when both equations are solved for x or y. So you've got x equals something and x equals something else, or y equals something, y equals something else. Or one equation is already solved for x or y. And so that means you have a y equals equation or an x equals equation. So x or y is isolated by itself on one side of the equal sign. Okay? So we're going to use all of our problems that you're going to see today are set up like this. They've got both or one equation solved for a variable already. And I'll give you some steps to follow so you can do the same process every single time. We'll look at the different types of solutions you can have, and then we'll work on some examples. Now, I forgot to mention this earlier, but it stands for every video. I'm going quicker in the video than I would in person, so feel free to pause, rewind, rewatch any part that you need to. Okay, I do expect you to be writing these notes down so you can use them later and use them to help you on your Math Excel work. Okay, so here are the steps. One, we're going to substitute the expression that x or y equals. And let me explain why we're going to do that. When we have two equations with two variables, and we're trying to solve for those variables, we can only solve for one variable at a time. So we can only look for x, or we can only look for y. We can't solve both at the same time. So we have some different methods to get rid of one of those variables. So today we're looking at substitution. And to substitute something means to replace it with something else. Just like if I was absent, you would have a substitute to take my place. We're doing the same thing here. We're taking out one of the variables and we're going to substitute something back in its place. And that's going to get rid of one of our variables. Step number 2, you simplify. So you might need to distribute, multiply, combine like terms, add, subtract, something like that. But you will need to simplify most of the time. Then you solve for your first variable. Okay, so whatever variable's left in step 2, that's what you solve for. Step 4, you're going to take what you get in step 3, so substitute the value from step 3 back into one of the original equations. And if you go back to the one that you circle, that's going to be the easiest, and I'll show you what I mean. And then from there, you solve or simplify for your second variable. Depending on which equation you use, you might have to solve, or you might just have to do some simplifying, just to do some math operations. And that'll give you your second variable. Most of the time for these problems, I think all the ones that we're going to look at today, you'll get x equals a number and y equals a number, and then you're going to turn that into an ordered pair, because the solution is where the two lines meet. So there should be one ordered pair where those lines meet. However, you do have some different solution types that we talked about back in lesson 16 vocabulary. If you get an x equals a number and y equals a number, it's an ordered pair. But if you get something like 0 equals 4, or negative 3 equals 3, or 8 equals 7, those are not true. So that's no solution. If you get something like this, x equals x, y equals y, 0 equals 0, 4 equals 4, all of those are true statements all the time. So you would say infinite solutions. Okay, now we're going to use our steps that we wrote down to work through some examples. All right, so here we have y equals 6x minus 13 and y equals negative 3x plus 14. Both of these are set up as y equals, so we can use substitution here. So we're going to substitute the expression that x and y equals. All right, so this is just a little bit different. If we know that y equals this, but y also equals that. So if these two are the same, then that means these two are the same. These y's are equal, so these quantities are equal. So I'm going to circle both of these quantities because I know that y equals this stuff, so I'm circling it. I also know that y equals this stuff. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to set those equal to each other and then solve. So 6x minus 13 equals negative 3x plus 14. Now, you just solve that like any other multi-step equation. So we'll add 3x to both sides, and we get 9x minus 13 equals 14. We add 13 to both sides, and we get 9x equals 27. Divide both sides by 9, and we get x equals 3. Okay? So sorry. So x equals 3 is part of your solution, but remember, we need an x and a y. So we're going to go back to one of these quantities that you circled. So we did step number 1, we substitute. Simplify, we didn't really need to simplify, so we went straight to step 3 and solved. Now we're on step 4. We're going to take this value, plug it back into one of the quantities that we circled, and simplify. So you can pick either one of these. You just pick the one that you think is the easiest. So I'm going to use the first one. So y equals 6x minus 13. I know that x equals 3, so I'm going to plug that in for x. So y equals 6 times 3 minus 13. You can type that quantity in the calculator. You can work it out piece by piece. 6 times 3 is 18 minus 13 equals 5. So now I have an x, I have a y. And so my final answer is going to be 3, 5. Okay, here's example number 2. This one's a little bit different. This is more like what your Math Excel homework will look like. You need to know how to do example number 1 because you are going to have to do that later with some word problems. But this is more like what you're going to see on your practice assignment today. Okay, so you look at your 2 equations. One of them is y equals. That means y is all by itself, and it's equal to a quantity. All right, so the first thing you need to do is pick out that equation. Which one is the y equals equation? It's this one. Okay, so that's the one I'm going to look at. So what does y equal? Y equals 4x plus 10. I'm going to circle that because I need to know what y equals. Okay? Since I know that y equals 4x plus 10, I can substitute this quantity in for y in the other equation. Now, this is usually the hardest part of substitution. If you can get the quantity substituted in, usually it's all downhill from there, okay? So I'm going to do everything I can to help you see what's happening. So we're going to write down this equation, but when we get to y, we're going to plug in this stuff, okay? So if you want to, you can circle this little y, you can box it, you can do something, because you're going to replace this y with this quantity, okay? So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to start writing this equation, 8x minus 6. Oh, I got to the y, but I'm going to take that y out. I'm going to plug in this other stuff instead. So something that could be helpful, so when you get to the y, make a set of parentheses automatically. When you get to a y, make the parentheses. Now, I said we could plug in this quantity for y, so I'm going to take this quantity and put it in the parentheses. 4x plus 10. All right, the rest of my equation is equals negative 12. Now, we have a multi-step equation, and we're ready to move on. So this was the substitution. I took this quantity, plugged it in for y in the other equation. Now step 2 is simplify. So I do need to simplify here. I need to distribute. So I'm going to distribute this negative 6. So negative 6 times 4x is negative 24x. Negative 6 times 10 is negative 60. And I'm just going to bring down everything else. Now I can combine like terms. 8x minus 24x is negative 16x. I have minus 60 equals negative 12. So I've done all my simplifying. Now I need to solve. This is a two-step equation. So add 60 to both sides. You get negative 16x equals 48. You divide by negative 16. And you get x equals negative 3. Okay? So here's my x value. So that takes me to step number 4. We're going to take this value that I got in step 3. I'm going to plug it back into what I circled and get y. Okay? So I'm going to use y equals 4x plus 10 because that's what I circled here. All right, I know that x is equal to negative 3, so I'm going to take that negative 3 and plug it in for x. All right, so I have y equals 4. Just like before, instead of the x, I'm going to plug in negative 3. And then I have plus 10. You don't have to solve this. You just have to simplify. You can type this quantity in your calculator and see what you get. So 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, plus 10 is negative 2. So now you have an x and you have a y. So we're going to make our final answer. So your final answer here is negative 3 comma negative 2. It's x comma y. Okay, here's example number 3. We're going to do it the exact same way. So, look at your two equations. Find the one that's y equals. This one. Okay, so what does y equal? Y equals 2x. So, I know that I can plug a 2x in for y in the other equation. Okay, so I will take out this y and I'll plug in the 2x. All right, so the equation that I didn't circle, okay, I didn't star this other one, I'm going to start writing it out, but when I get to y, I'm going to plug in 2x. Okay, so 5x plus. I told you to make parentheses when you see the y, and then you're going to take what you circled and plug in the parentheses. So we'll plug in a 2x. Now, in this one, those parentheses really weren't necessary because this is just a positive 1 on the outside, understood? So there's nothing really to do there. So to simplify it, I can just say 5x plus 2x equals 14. Now, do I need to distribute? No. Do I need to combine like terms? Yes. What's 5x plus 2x? 7x equals 14. I solve that, divide by 7, and I get x equals 2. So there's my x value. Now, I'm going to go back to what I circled and starred, so y equals 2x. What am I going to plug in for x? What did I figure out that x is? Good. X is 2. So I'm going to take that 2 and plug it in for x. So y equals 2 times 2. And that simplifies to y equals 4. So now I've got an x, I've got a y. What's my ordered pair or my answer? 2, 4. Okay, you have some problems almost identical to those in your Math Excel work. So use these examples to help you. Here's example number 4. I want you to write it down. It's almost exactly the same as number 3, so give it a try, see what you can do, and then come back and check your answers with me. Okay, so find your equation that's y equals, okay, it's this one. So what does y equal? Negative 2x. So that means I can plug that in for y in the other equation. Okay, so I'm going to put it in this spot. So I'm going to write this equation down until I get to the y, then I'm going to make parentheses. So 4x minus parentheses equals 12. Now, what goes in that spot? Negative 2x. Good. Now, I need to simplify. So what's understood to be on the outside of these parentheses? That's right, a negative 1. So let's distribute that or multiply that. Negative 1 times negative 2x makes positive 2x. Bring down your 4x equals 12. That gives you 6x equals 12. So x equals 2. Good. Now, go back to what you circled. So y equals negative 2x. We know x equals 2, so we plug that in for x. Y equals negative 2 times what? 2. Good. So y equals negative 4. So we have our x, we have our y. My ordered pair is 2, comma, negative 4. Okay, again, you have some just like that in Math Excel. Okay, here is example number 5. It's just a little bit different. I'll get you started, and then I want you to pause the video and give it a try on your own. Okay, so on this one, look for your x or y equals. What do you have this time? We have an x equals, so it's this equation here. And what does x equal? 3y plus 5. So where will that go in the other equation? Is it going to go for x or y? X. Okay, so you can box that x if you want to. So we're going to write down this other equation, but when we get to x, we're going to make parentheses. So 5 parentheses plus 6y equals 4. Okay, what goes in the parentheses? Good, what we circled, that 3y plus 5. Now we can simplify. We do need the distributive property this time. Okay, so now from this point on, it's just like what you did before. So I want you to pause the video, give it a try. All right, let's see what you got. 5 times 3y is 15y. 5 times 5 is 25. Plus 6y equals 4. Okay, we can combine like terms. So 15y and 6y makes 21y. Plus 25 equals 4. It's a two-step. I can subtract 25. And I get 21y equals negative 21. So divide by 21, and I get y equals negative 1. Okay, so now I'll go back to what I circled. Okay, it was this top one. So x equals 3y plus 5. All right, but instead of the y, we know y equals negative 1. So x equals 3 parentheses plus 5. What goes in the parentheses? Negative 1. So that's x equals negative 3 plus 5, which equals 2. So now I have an x, I have a y, so my ordered pair is 2, comma, negative 1. Oh, sorry, paper slipped. There you go. Okay, here's example number 6. Now, normally I would not turn my paper around and use this side, but we just have one example and I really don't want to get another piece of paper. So we're just going to roll with it, okay? So we have 2x plus 7y equals 1 and x equals 3y plus 7. So first we find our x equals or y equals equation. Which one do we have? X equals or y equals? X equals. And which equation is it? Top or bottom? Bottom. So this is the one we're going to look at first. What am I going to circle, or what does x equal? 3y plus 7. All right, so where is that going to go in the other equation? What variable are we going to replace? Good, the x. Okay, so we're going to write this top equation, but when we get to x, I'm going to make parentheses. So 2 parentheses plus 7y equals 1. What goes in the parentheses? 3y plus 7. Okay, now we need to simplify. This is just like example number 5, so pause the video, give it a try. All right, let's see what you should have. 2 times 3y is 6y. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 7y equals 1. All right, combine your like terms. 6y and 7y is 13y, plus 14 equals 1. Subtract 14. We get 13y equals negative 13. Divide by 13, and you get y equals negative 1. Okay, now we know what y equals. We're going to go back to what we circled. So that x equals 3y plus 7. We're going to plug negative 1 in for y. So x equals 3 times negative 1 plus 7. So x equals negative 3 plus 7, which equals 4. So now I have my x, I have my y. My ordered pair is 4, negative 1. Okay, so you have some problems like that in Math Excel. Make sure you write down the examples, give them a try. Use these examples to help you through your Math Excel work. Your assignment is short, and I think it's only 8 problems, and you should be able to use these examples to work through those. As always, if you need my help, let me know. Talk to me in the Meet, send me an email, hit that Ask My Instructor button. Have a great day.